Good afternoon. It was going to be a 9 o'clock session, but luckily Robin's moved it, had the foresight to move it. So health and safety, I'll be really brief, mercifully brief, in fact. First of all, the approach that we would take normally would be a risk assessment. This is last night's risk assessment, where I successfully battled off David Dale in a pincer movement. There you go. That's how you do it. This is health and safety. There were others carrying out commercial negotiations. Here, Ian Smith, the Sea Blues, trying to offload pitches onto canvas. He surrenders early and lives to regret that decision. See, who says health and safety is not fun? But there were people that actually failed to assess risk. Now, why Robin's actually got a microphone up his nose and an endive in one hand will be there for all posterity to work out. Okay, so what I'm going to look at very, very briefly is a tiny little snapshot, and then Stephen's going to talk about liability in resort. But before you send people to resort, what responsibilities have you got? Well, health and safety at work will apply only in the UK. First thing to say. And this first slide is just about your criminal responsibilities, what's in place by statute and Acts of Parliament. So you have a duty to look after your customers and your employees while they're in the UK. There is corporate manslaughter has just been brought in last year, which again would only apply in the UK. But there is exactly, almost exactly, the same liability in France. And then finally, the package travel regs, which we will refer to a little later. But I think the biggest business cost is civil claims. So if you failed to look after people, they could actually take a civil claim against you. And it's one person suing another for something that they've done wrong. There is some sense in this. I know Stephen's going to talk about one case. But Born Leisure last year actually managed to defend a case where a child had fallen into a pond. And compensation was paid. Judgment was held against them. They appealed. And it was held that it was the parents' responsibility. And that, I think, if you've got your systems in place, you can defend what you're doing. We've worked with brokers to actually work out the cost. This is the cost of one single slip. So 2,500 paid injuries to an individual. Because of the fees that Stephen and others will charge, you're looking at 5 times the cost in fees and wages. So if you had a turnover which you could dream of with a profit margin of 22%, as the company we were working out for, you would need to earn £56,000 just to replace that, the cost of one slip. So it is a commercial sense. The future concern which I want to pick out today is actually there are moves afoot to create an offence of biocrime. It's a dreadful term, but what it actually means is that articles like this are appearing. This is an article from Environmental Health News, which you probably all read every week when it comes out. I do still get this. And this was an article that was here in February. And the person saying the quote is, "The rise of holiday illness cannot continue," was also backed up by Holiday Travel Watch, with this guy who's given a presentation and actually saying directors have got to be made corporately responsible in the same way as they are in the UK. And what they're saying is that my Holiday Travel Watch, received 8,000 complaints, and a quarter of them were about illness, and that's what I'm just focusing on. So they're campaigning to strengthen the package travel regs to include all holidays and not package holidays. And claimants and solicitors are also pushing for this sort of regulation to go through. And the reason they're doing that is Erwin Mitchell, we deal with quite a lot, work for claimants, and actually said that they've taken class actions for 1,000 claimants that were made ill with norovirus in Torremolinos. You've probably heard about it. But that settlement that came through last year of 2.5 million on behalf of those that were made ill. And norovirus is just a really short-lived illness, but it has long-term effects for some people. And this is a slide from Erwin Mitchell's presentation. that's actually saying they want to take these big actions when several people have been made ill, because they can get more evidence to screw the tour operator. They can actually increase the volume of evidence, they see more paperwork, they get larger claims, and they can make better deals. This is what they're putting out there, talking to the enforcement officers. And they're saying, actually, you've got to know. The point of all of it is you've got to have information flow. You've got to know when you're sending somebody to a resort where there's illness. You've got to look at hygiene standards. You've got to take checks, and you have to work out what you're going to do. And the third point on there, failure to warn, is going to be important to you. We did a case for Butlins Hotel in Blackpool. It's ideal. Can't compete with the glamour of Lille, but they had norovirus, and customers were advised, and they could change their booking. There was a procedure for dealing with it. What they did, though, the customer could choose to stay, and somebody did, and he was made violently ill, was violently sick and diarrhea, and he had a heart condition. And he ended up having a heart attack, and he took a civil claim against that tour operator, but it was defended in a civil claim because they warned him. So what I would say out of all of that is that you need to actually know what your procedures are going to be. And the biocrime offence that they're actually looking for is you have to intend to send somebody, or you're being reckless. You would be considered to be reckless if you send somebody to a hotel or resort where you know there's norovirus, for example. I don't know how they're going to introduce that. Okay, so finally, I think the message is that we need to keep informed. I'm raising this because I think if it does go through and those pressure groups get their way, you'll be forced into a situation that you can't get out of easily. So hopefully we can keep informed through ABTOF. ABTOF are, I have to say, pushing for a European standard. I think you should be having an opinion on that, because otherwise it's not. They're pushing for a level playing field to the extent that everybody should be operating the same. How is that going to be measured? So I think it should be lobbied. We need to find a way of collating information and sharing information, and review your procedures and your contracting terms, so that hotels have to tell you if there's a problem, for example, and then have your procedures in place. That's all. I hand you over to Stephen.
Thanks very much, Jackie. Good morning, everyone. Hi. I don't have a high-speed laptop like Chewy, but I do have a high-speed piece of paper, which is just as well, because I have a very short time in which to tell you, really, to raise some alerts about what the law's been up to. I must say, the law has been very, very active in our field of travel over the last few weeks. And also, as well as building on what Jackie said, this will have the effect of demonstrating how difficult it is if you aim to use an agency model for your business, either generally or for specific add-ons. It will prove how hard it is. Parker against Tui. Mrs. Parker was injured when, after a toboggan ride, which she'd booked as an excursion in resort, when she was supposed to be walking back to the car park, she thought she was too tired or couldn't be bothered, so she got back on the toboggan and had an accident. She sued Tui about her injuries. Now, she lost because it was her own stupid fault. But worryingly, the Court of Appeal said that on a very slightly different set of facts, she would have won, because although TUI were only agents in selling the excursion, nonetheless they could be liable for negligence in the way in which it was performed.